welcome to our presentations. We are the Anonymous, and today we're going to share about major issues related to the topic environments. About the team, the Anonymous has up to 10 members, and we are all focused on finding answers for question 20. Should plastic be banned? Think about recycling issues as well as production issues for alternative materials. After completing the research, we will present the solutions in the following orders: introductions, methodologies, data analysis, identifying weak arguments, consolidations arguments, and conclusions. Let's jump into the first part, introductions. According to the latest statistic, over 380 million tons of plastic are produced globally each year, which might contaminate our environments and oceans. Although plastic can play essential roles in impacting people's life every day and everywhere, they still cause tremendous damage, with particular effects on humans, environments, and animals, especially the health of the oceans. The crucial problem with plastic is that they do not decompose easily. Plastic bags can take up to 1,000 years to decompose. They are one of the planet's biggest environmental burdens. The communities have suggested further alternative materials. Some environmentally friendly products may produce fewer greenhouse gas emissions but demand more water, fertilizers, or energies, for instance. This report will discuss and come up with a fair solution to the issues using some of the aforementioned arguments. To better understand why plastic should not be prohibited from daily life, the paper will examine from a variety of perspectives.
So now let's move on to the next part, that would be the methodology. So for our research on this topic, our data on the impact of plastic on the world was obtained by a variety of reports and articles by international organizations. Our research primary goal is to demonstrate the impact of plastic on society and the issues that it raises. Our study method of choice was mixed research, which is a combination of qualitative and quantitative research in order to provide relevant, persuasive statistics and support our findings. Our criteria for the data were the size of the plastic industry, the flow of plastic consumption, and the lifespan of plastic. We separate the research into two categories during the data collection progress. One would be the effect of plastic on the environment, and the other would be the function of plastic in society. Our goal in the first place was to gather data on the use, manufacture, and lifetime of plastic around the world. Our second group was to demonstrate how crucial plastic was. Our data analysis method for this research was descriptive analysis. So from the figures, we analyzed and explored how plastic can possibly affect the environment and humans. During our conduct of the research, we had encountered one main barrier, that was, since the data was expressed in the worldwide average rate, our data might be inaccurate in some specific locations. However, the evidence indicates that if it is applied globally, it's still indeed effective. Let's move on to the next part, that would be data analysis, when we conduct and find out our findings. So plastic surrounding issues have always been controversial. Some say that plastic should be banned, but others have different opinions. Recognizing these opposites, as we surveyed more than 300 people to get their opinion on the matter. Through the survey, we got about 41% of the 300 people agreeing that plastic waste should be banned, but around that it has a detrimental impact on the environment, especially in the ecosystem. But the remaining 59% think that plastic should not be banned, especially the recyclable plastic, that they don't want it to be banned. They want it to be limited only. So, according to the 2022 statistic that our team found out, between the 1950 and 2017, an estimated 9.2 billion tons of plastic have been manufactured. Figures shows that more than 54% of plastic are thrown away within 1 month. About 30% are in use. More than 9.7 are incinerated, and just about 6 to 10% are recycled. So what happens when the rest are thrown away? What is the afterlife? The average time for a plastic bottle to completely decompose is about 450 years. Some can take longer than others to degrade. For some bottles, it can take up to 1,000 years to biodegrade. So, as 90% of the plastic bottles doesn't get recycled, within that 90%, around 250 billion of them were out in the deep ocean. Talking about the ocean, around 60 million plastic bottles end up in landfills every single day. In the country of the United States alone, sends more than 38 billion water bottles to landfills every year. That is the equivalent of 912 million gallons of oil. Around 8 million metric tons of plastic end up in our oceans every year. So to sum it down into a smaller time frame, that means that 1,500 plastic bottles are thrown away every second of the day. And so the World Economic Forum predicts that the ocean will contain about 937 million tons of plastic and only 895 million tons of fish. So the amount of plastic will accumulate to be more than the amount of fish there are in the ocean. So with the amount of plastic human has created and the effects that it has taken on the ecosystem, let's talk about what would the Earth would be like without plastic. So as we all know, plastic has many drawbacks, but it has also significantly improved our quality of life throughout the years of human history. Maybe even more than we thought it to be. So let's begin with the medical sector. Syringes, gloves, and other medical supplies are kept in plastic containers because plastic is a very, very sanitary material. Sterilizing products will be far more difficult or expensive without plastic. Non-sterile equipment can sometimes have fatal consequences, as we all know in the past. Plastic also saves fuel, energy, and other natural resources by replacing them. Now that we have all gone through that plastic is indeed a vital, crucial role in our human history, let's go through some very important invention that was made from plastics throughout the human history. Let's start with the polythene bags. Yes, lightweight plastic shopping bags were the invention of the Swedish engineer Sten Gustaf Thulin. They were manufactured by Celoplast and had a worldwide patent in 1965. And now we all use it daily. Next we have the water-based acrylic paints. Otto Röhm invented acrylic resin in 1934, which was quickly transformed into acrylic paint. Acrylic were made commercially available at house paint in the 1960s, and now is very common. Next we have very important, the mobile phone. Martin Cooper at Motorola, the researcher and the executive designed the first ever mobile phone. The mobile phone weighed over a kilogram. Next up we have the artificial heart. The first artificial heart was made mainly of polyurethane. It was designed by Dr. Robert Chubbuck and implanted in the human in the 1982. Very important, plastic hearts. Next up we have the Dyson vacuum cleaner. Yes, a vacuum cleaner, yes. So Dyson's first vacuum cleaner launched in Japan in the 1985, costing the equivalent of $2,000. In the 1991, it was the first awarded the International Design Fair Prize in Japan. And it is indeed a very important invention. If you don't have a vacuum cleaner, I suggest you one. Next up we have the iPod. iPod is an independent innovator named Tony Fadell invented the iPod, which was then developed by Apple as the iPod that we have come to know. Next we have the Amazon Kindle. The Amazon Kindle is an e-reader with a resilient plastic out-of-body case. Kindle is used to read ebooks, newspaper, magazines, and other digital media. And next we have 3D printed body parts and plastic blood. Plastic blood was developed by the University of Sheffield to mimic hemoglobin for use of trauma situations where blood is needed quickly. So doctors can now produce replica kidneys or even livers for transplant patients. So, inventions aside, let's talk about industrial plastic. Industrial plastic is an environmentally friendly material that can be recycled and reused. Plastic increase energy efficiency, reduce waste, speed up the use of raw material, and etc. So, to say more about it, industrial plastic create a new energy source. From polycarbonate material, create a new renewable energy sources, and at the same time, create a solar energy source to save maximum cost for the user. Solar panels, next we have saving and filtering water. Plastic is used in the construction of water tanks and water storage to create a safe, convenient water storage device. Then we have planes. Plastic save fuels, energy, and natural resources, as I mentioned. Planes and cars are made of mixed materials, making them lighter and safer. By using less energy, it minimizes carbon emissions, the main cause of the greenhouse effect. So the plastic industry helps us to develop more and more quality products, reducing the pressure that it has on the use of resources. To be more specific, natural resources.
Finished her part, I continue to identify weak arguments. The first fallacy one, before moving to the fallacies, I want to introduce to you four fallacies. First one is questionable cost. Second one, appeal to ignorance. Third one, hasty generation. And finally, inappropriate appeal to authority. First one, fallacy one. I think plastic has been adding up to the amount of trash in the world, so banning it is necessary. While this argument seemed to be good, it actually encountered the questionable cost fallacy. Alongside with plastic, there are many more kinds of garbage like paper, electronic devices, raw material, so even without plastic, we will still be in many trouble regardless of any kind of trash. And move to fallacy 2. Isn't there is paper bag can be reused? Why shouldn't we just replace plastic bag with the paper bags? There is no one complain about bag after all. It seems this argument has met a serious fallacy, appeal to ignorance. Even there is no one complain about paper bag yet, it can be sure that there is no one in the future too. Compared to the long-term use, paper bag cannot maintain for too long due to its material paper. Plastic, on the other hand, can last for a very long time since it takes up to 100 years to 1000 years to be completely dissolved. And move to the third fallacy. The third fallacy I want to show to you is that most of the time when I use plastic bag, I have a feeling it will choke at any time due to its smell, so I would rather use paper bag instead. Not all plastic bags are smelly, so this argument has become a hasty generation argument. Maybe since the location of these people have cheated on the quality of plastic bags, like instead of using normal plastic bag, the shop owner decides to use something cheaper, second-hand plastic bag. This can cause some unwanted smell, also become toxic for people. And move to the last fallacy 4. I heard my friend said he saw a company using plastic bag to create food. There is no way you can eat food like that, so I object the idea to continue using plastic bags. This is basically an inappropriate appeal to authority argument. That person just heard his friend said about the company using plastic bags as food without citing any sufficient evidence. All he did is just believe in something untrustworthy evidence and force everyone to believe in him about some evil action about plastic bags. In fact, if the company used plastic bags as food, it would just be found out immediately. And now we move to the refuting. Plastic bag is the most toxic things existing in the world, so indeed we must ban the plastic bag to save humanity. This argument is invalid, so I just explain to you is that because aside from plastic, there are many other toxic things that appear in the world that is still used in daily life. An example of borax, an extremely toxic chemical that is used in food in order to keep the food fresh. And now we just look at the Venn diagram here. There's a plastic, people, useful thing. All plastic is useful thing. Yes, some people hate plastic. So some people hate useful thing. This one is invalid because all plastic is you think some people, not all some people hate plastic, so this one is invalid. Let me explain to you the truth table here. Plastic bring doom to humanity, and so do plastic bags. Trash do not bring doom to humanity, so it is not the cause that plastic and trash will bring doom to humanity. The first one I will call P. Plastic brings doom to humanity. Second one, B. So do plastic bags. T. Trash do not bring doom to humanity. And the conclusion is, so it is not the cause that plastic and trash will bring doom to humanity. Second one, P is true, B is true, T is false, so the negation of T is true, B and T is true, is still true. And P and T is false, and the negation of P and T is of course true. So this one is valid. The next part, consolidating arguments. First one, I want to say briefly about plastic. Plastics are one of the most common tools in which its appearance can be easily seen in every aspect of human activities, from the very cheap ones to the very high quality and cost ones. Significantly, plastic produced materials are durable, low cost, water resistant, and lightweight, and also low energy cost, but they still exist the risk can affect heavily damage to not only to our environment but also to our human life. So there are many approval arguments that plastic should be banned due to the detrimental effect, but the benefits of plastic boards are totally undeniable. First one, plastic is an inseparable and integrated part of the human life because of the flexibility in plastic characteristic, and it can be applied in various ways such as a house tool or kitchen utensil. However, besides the advantages of plastic is brought, the detrimental effects are hazardous. Many countries in the world have reported that plastics are one of the main causes of environmental pollution. There is much information about having discovered plastic inside digestive system of animals. Moreover, the chemicals that from plastic are from the fossil fuel with the main cause of global warming. Plastics are also found in daily food consumption such as beer, seafood, and so on, and it can dangerously damage our human health, which is all of the cause mostly originated from the microfibre. The scientists are now still searching for a replacement because the consequences of plastic uses are extremely terrible. Nevertheless, this issue are really difficult because it cannot totally replace plastic. It will cause the whole production to collapse and the economy will remarkably influence because plastic have a cheap and simple fabrication, so it has to be the same usage object with a better effect to the environment. But in order to fulfill the request, it will cost a great amount of money and time, as it's not terminated immediately in long-term progress to create a suitable replacement. Students are now trying to innovating a new use to reduce the damage and the threat of plastic, so it's they believe that there will be flexible and friendly environment tool that can totally take the important place of plastic. From our current action, the use of plastic has to be controlled instantaneously and by limiting and managing in the long term using of plastic. And now let's with me to move to the conclusion. The first one, I want to make a conclusion that resident access to plastic should not be restricted in any manner. While most individuals believe that plastic should not be banned, some oppose it without providing invalid justification. Plastic is used intensively in several aspects of human life, starting with the most fundamental necessity like construction, agriculture, and packaging. If people and government understand and they use the techniques and methods of using plastic, which make it even more convenient for human life, plastic can also become a non-threat. And so on, if plastic can be controlled and disposed in the future, people will be able to use it without concern about the detrimental effect, expanding the range of applications for which it can be used.